I don't just want to be in the race for clean energy. I want us to win the race.
Net zero. Oh my God, isn't it awful? Tell you what, we're not even a part of it. Look at the numbers.
Net zero, you know what net zero, they have no idea what it means, by the way. It's net zero. What does that mean? Nobody knows.
Climate change has become a climate crisis, and a threat has now become a reality.
Zero carbon
East-Talk. Hello and welcome to Zero Carbonista, Series 6, The Cow in the Room. I'm Ian Collins, and this is your number one go-to environment-based podcast. If it's green, it's in. And I tell you what, Gail, this agenda doesn't get any slimmer.
Since when was I Gail?
Did I say Gail?
That sounded like it to me.
Did it Gail? Gail Vince. Well, you know.
Well, we've got a wind story coming up, so maybe you just
We have indeed. I think we should start with farming. There's a couple of interesting stories on farming. The NFU are, quite a difficult organisation to sort of penetrate. They've been around forever. They're, some would say, stuck in their ways, although they would say, no, we're always willing to bend, but not at the speed that some politicians want us to. They say that plans to make farming net zero by 2040 might not be achieved. What do we make of this?
As far as I know, they're NFU plans. I'm not sure they're government plans. I mean, I read about them before. There's some kind of weird trade-off they want to do, claiming, kind of carbon credits from the energy sector for something that farming does. I don't remember the details, but I never really gave it much credence when I saw it, these targets and these claims they made. What I see here is basically this union for farmers saying that UK's total agriculture budget needs to be virtually doubled, which is a nice way of saying, actually, we need you to double the subsidies you give us, Gov, right? Because that's what they are. It's not a budget, it's subsidies. Let's call them what they are. And in fact, what farming needs to do is change what it does, because animal agriculture is the biggest driver of the climate crisis, or one of the biggest, globally. And it's going to be at the root of the majority of farming emissions. It's what they grow rather than how they do it. And of course, it's animals. It's the cow in the room. Let's stop farming cows, and we can make it an immediate big impact on that. And this is what's needed. What's needed is a radical approach, not throwing more subsidies into a broken, old-fashioned industry. We've got to change our approach. And I'm thinking to myself, actually, that I'm going to have to take the cow in the room message to the NFU, and along with it, the green gas message, because there's a transition for farmers here who grow grass currently to feed to cows that cause all these problems. They could grow it for us and other people to make gas, and we can now make food from grass as well for the first time ever. And so, there is a transition. There is a way to make farming zero carbon and better for wildlife and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to have to go there and clip them around the ear with this cow in the room thing.
The cat. I love the clip them around the ear with the cow in the room thing. It's got to be done. Sorry, boys, there's no way around this. Ears out. I think the cow in the room roadshow is only a matter of time.
I think you might be right. Oh, I was reading today. Tell you what I was reading today. It's not on our agenda. Cows are a bigger killer. They are the biggest animal killers of humans in our country, bigger than dogs. Something like 80-odd deaths last year and about 800 injuries. Cows in fields just ramming into people and trampling them.
There's always some pissed character that goes, I'm not going to walk around the footpath. I'll just walk through that field. I think there's literally 61-ton beasts in there. Good luck with that, mate.
It's not pissed people. I read a little bit about it. It's just everyday walkers, people with dogs on leads. You can't even blame it on a loose dog. It's just happening. Cows occasionally.
Yeah, but don't go near cows, right?
Well,
don't go near a herd of cows.
Well, some of these people have just been.
You're too sympathetic on this stuff.
No, well, I've read the story.
I have no sympathy at all for these characters.
I read the story. Some of these people are walking along the edge of a field, well away from this herd of cows, who look up, spot them, and just make a beeline for them. It's like
they can run faster than people think.
Catch them on a bad day.
Yeah. There's not a cow with the hump is not a camel. A cow with the hump is a very, very upset beast. And if that's coming at you, it's like a car at 40 miles an hour coming at you, but 60 of them.
Nearly 100 stone they weigh.
Yeah, I mean, they're big old things. Anyway. Let's talk about, talking of cows, let's talk about methane.
New report out this week into methane from the US says that concentrations around the world have increased at record speed in the last 5 years. They're now nearly 3 times higher than pre-industrial levels, the highest they've been in 800,000 years on our planet, which is, pretty incredible. So methane has this incredible impact. During the first 20 years after its release into the atmosphere, it heats it up nearly 90 times faster than carbon dioxide, which makes it a key target for limiting global warming in the near term. We've got to get methane under control. And of course, that brings us right back to the cow in the room. Animal agriculture, cows in particular, they leak methane at both ends, and it's driving this problem. So, methane alert.
Methane alert indeed. Here's a question. This comes from Janine, who says, where do you stand on the winter heating payments for pensioners?
I support it, actually, because it's means tested. So it should mean that anybody that really needs it still gets it. I think there's a limited amount of money around, and there are millions of children in our country that aren't being fed, that are hungry, going to school hungry. And, there are policies that need reversing from the last government, like the 2-child benefit cap, for example, which are going to cost a few £billion. I think pensioners are relatively well looked after with the triple lock, which is going to give them another 400 quid in a few months' time, 400 quid a year. I think they're relatively well looked after. It's means tested. I think on balance, it's the right thing to do.
Okay.
But can I just say this? We put a story out in the media, and I'm sharing it with the government. There's a way to give the winter fuel allowance back to pensioners. In fact, to give it to all of us, and that is to control what they're known as DNOs. They own the network, basically the pipes and the pylons that bring gas and electricity to us. Most of them are foreign owners based in tax havens, and they're allowed to make a 40% profit margin. That's what they've been making. Whereas in energy retail, we have a cap of 1.5% profit margin. We've done the quick numbers, right? And if they were controlled in the same way as energy retailers, there's £6 billion can be given back to energy bill payers. And that is £200 per house across the whole country. These are modern day robber barons that are just sucking money out of our economy and increasing our bills for no other reason than their own enrichment.
Is this did you do a little video on social media for this?
I did.
Where you happened to be walking past one of their headquarters.
It's funny.
It's like, hang on a second, these are the characters. It was that one, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I saw this.
It was funny. I was at the Ministry of Sound for a Green Tech Festival. Did a little piece there. I walked out the door, and my people were like, "Hey, look, it's UKPN, or whatever they're called, UK Power Networks." Anyway, basically their headquarters. As we were standing outside getting the phone ready to do a recording, the suits walking in and out were looking really shifty. What's about to happen? Like some kind of JSO stunt was about to start, or something like that.
Dale Vince on our
It's only me. It's only me.
This can only be bad news.
But there it is. It's an incredible profit margin. It's only bettered in our economy by banks who are allowed to make 50%, and I don't understand why we allow that, because
that's amazing.
It's just gross.
It's time for this feature. It's Right Wing Nut, Dale. It's back with a new season vengeance, I think is the phrase. And who better to open up proceedings than Donald Trump?
Yeah, because he's back as well, isn't he? I mean, he's back in contention for leadership of the free world, I think they used to call it. And, he's either going to win that gig or he's going to find himself in prison by the looks of it. What he's been up to now on TV, debating with Kamala Harris, who could be the savior of the free world. Since she took over from Biden, Trump made the most incredible claims, amongst which was that immigrants are eating pets. They're eating cats and dogs in, I think it was Idaho or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
Eating
up all the cats.
It's like, I don't know, it's a bit nutty. But I do think he's run a close second place this week by our old friend Nigel Farage, who's in Parliament now. In case anybody missed it, he gets to ask PMQs, and his first one this week, he asked Keir Starmer, or he made a point really, I don't know if it was really a question, claiming that there is a two-tier justice system that's upsetting a lot of people in our country, and I think FFS.
Yeah, there's a lot of two-tier accusations and to a lot of disquiet from members of the House of Commons from all parties, I think.
It's terrible. It's a terrible thing to say. I mean, it's stoking resentment and all kinds of other negative emotions and feelings around our country. This is divisive, populist politics at work. Oh, what a
Here's a question from Tom. I didn't know about this, but he says, how did this row with Andrew Neil begin? And why is he obsessed with China? Now, you've had some blinding high-profile rows, Dale. You went through the David Icke phase. It's a rite of passage, I think. I'm trying to think of the last one was who ended
Piers
up.
Morgan was a big one back in the day, but there might be more recent stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think this one's a row. I don't think any of them are rows, actually. But Andrew Neil, I think he just posted something on social media saying, yeah, but what about China? You know the question. We cover it every now and then. And so, we put up some of the answers. Like, this is what's happening in China. And he's like, I don't believe all of the, what do you call it? Propaganda. He's like, don't believe propaganda. And we're like, well, look at the bottom right-hand corner of this chart and you'll see it's S&P, globally renowned rating agency that are putting out these statistics.
Yeah.
And, it went on from there. That's all it is. He's just in that what about China camp.
Here's a question that comes from Katie, who says, is aviation out of control? Night flying and late night flying seems increasingly common at Heathrow. I thought there was a cutout point of flying.
Yeah, I don't actually know is the answer. Is aviation out of control? I think I'm going to say yes. I think only because we need to rein it in a little bit. I don't think we need to stop it, as I said before, because we've got the solutions coming along. Zero carbon flying, genuine zero carbon flying is coming. And so the good news is we haven't got to give up flying to get to net zero, but we do need to put some limits on it. And, most of the people in our country don't fly. I think it's only 1% of people in the world take 50% of all the flights in the world. The whole thing's out of kilter, but it does an incredible amount of harm high up there in the atmosphere with, with its emissions and stuff like that. So I think it needs to be more under control rather perhaps than it is out of control.
Okay. Here's a question that also comes up from time to time as well. It's usually when people talk about vegan diets and vegetarian, but then vegan diets as well. The question is, what about my dog? What about my cat? They love their meat.
That's right. We can't like give up animal farming because we've got to feed pets, which is a pretty kind of ridiculous thing to say, I think, in any event. But latest research out, and this story's been around for a little while, but it keeps on coming. That the facts, the stats, the findings keep on coming. Dogs are better off not eating meat. Check that one out. Yeah. They live longer, they have less illness, lower medication use, and less frequent visits to the vet compared to meat diets. And this is coming from the British Veterinary Association. So the British Veterinary Association have reversed their stance on plant-based diets, saying it's possible as long as it's nutritionally complete, of course, which we all know that it is. And there are a couple of decent brands out there already that are doing plant-based dog and cat food. Did you know that cats eat more fish than sharks?
Is that right?
In the world, yeah.
Globally, yeah. I'd never thought about that. It sort of makes sense.
And fishermen kill sharks because they're competing with them for catching fish, but cats eat more fish than sharks do. I mean, I like cats. Don't get me wrong.
I'm not a big fan of the cat. It's a ridiculous bit of kit, your cat. I mean, come on. What's a cat for? They've all got 7 owners, and each one thinks they're the only owner. They get fed about 20 times a day, little shits.
With fish.
I think, you see, the fact that dogs don't need to be fed animals, this is why the cows are killing the dog walkers. That's what's happening. The cows are looking at that, you're going to feed me to that? Ain't happening, mate.
I want to know how cats evolved to love fish. I mean, it can't be natural for a cat to eat fish, right? They hate water.
I mean, of all the things you'd imagine, they would not go anywhere near. How did they get to that?
Yeah, they don't go fishing.
They don't go fishing.
Ain't their natural diet, right? They wouldn't miss it.
Well, you put a cat near water, it shits itself. It hates the stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, we should move on.
Let's move on. Here's one that's quite interesting.
Oh, no. Oh, I just missed a pun, an accidental one. We're going to move on.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you went bovine on us.
Oh, I did.
I like it. Reframing climate change as patriotic increases the belief of the right wing is the story here. And I can get this just from the headline.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've kind of talked about it before. It's kind of at the heart of green populism, this thing that I've talked about in my book and out there in the world, which is about reframing the debate. For example, when it comes to 100% green energy, stop talking about ice caps and polar bears, start talking about jobs and GDP, which is really rather good for. Turn it into an economic argument. Energy independence is the epitome, the pinnacle of this patriotic argument. It's about being independent of global fossil fuel markets that drove the energy crisis in our country and caused so much harm, and enormous economic harm. So it all makes perfect sense to me.
And let's finish on a new feature, Dale. This is called X-Rated Corner. X-Rated Corner, trawling the depths of social media so nobody else has to, because despite your growing popularity, Dale, and your message, wisdom-based, experience-lived, and spot-on to the masses, there are some people out there who ain't buying into this. And I think they're the ones we've managed to find on social. Just to throw in a few questions. Are you ready for these?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Patriotic Steve. I mean, we're all ready. When somebody puts numbers on their Twitter name, you kind of know where you're going.
He's 14928. I mean, are there that many patriotic Steves in the country?
That he had to put a number there just in case.
Which is 14,928.
That's very true. There's not that many. Yeah, no, he can't count, Steve. He says, Vince, would you eat lab-grown meat? I
wouldn't. I think it's a grim concept. Also think we don't need it. I think it's a bit of an excuse for people that can't accept that we really have to stop eating meat. We certainly have to eat it in vastly smaller quantities than we currently do, more or less like it was at the end of the Second World War, when it was an occasional once a week thing. I think it's still energy intensive when it's grown in a lab. It'll be better than growing an actual animal. It'll be more efficient than that, but it will never be better than just eating plants.
Here's two questions of a similar nature. First one from Toon999, who says, Oi! Yeah. That's how he starts. Hard to find a more pro-China account than yours these days, Vince. Are you on the payroll?
Well, that's funny.
Tell us, Chairman funny. Vince, are you on the payroll?
No, I'm definitely not on the payroll. But look, I mean, is that true? A more pro-China account than mine? There must be some, right? I mean, the Chinese government must have some.
I think theirs is more pro-China.
Yeah, I think so.
I've got the receipts for that.
But in my own defense, I'm just going to say, all I put out there are facts, right? They're just facts. And if you don't like the facts, don't blame me. Don't say I'm on the payroll because you don't like the facts. Just go out there and check them out. They're real.
Dave S0000000003 says, why?
You would never remember that yourself, would you, if you had to put your ID in?
Yeah, you get that so wrong. How many attempts would you get on that one? Why does Dale Vince repeatedly defend the Chinese Communist Party whilst being disparaging towards the UK? No patriotism, Dale.
Yeah, I think that's a misrepresentation of what I do, actually. What I say is that to people that say, what about China? They go, I don't know, their emissions are off the charts and why should we bother and all that kind of stuff. I say, actually, look at what China are doing, right? They make, I don't know, nearly 90% of the world's solar panels. Without them, we'd be pretty screwed trying to get to net zero. They've got hundreds of thousands of electric buses on the road. They're nearly 50% green electricity on the grid. All of those stats. I just say, look, these are the stats, actually. You can fixate on coal and say it's all bad because China's got a lot of coal power stations, but actually there's a lot of facts that you're missing if you do that. And it's not about the Communist Party. They are the rulers, of course, but I think that helps them get stuff done.
Dale, that is it for this episode.
Oh, damn. It went really quick.
It went very quick, but some fine material and fodder in there, I think we can safely say.
And you're hoofing it somewhere, right?
Absolutely. I'm hoofing it. Speaking of week, Dale.
All right.
Don't forget, of course, to follow this podcast from your podcast provider. Therefore, you get each new episode automatically. And, of course, follow Dale on social media, which is twitter.com, x.com/DaleVince, facebook.com/DaleVince, and on TikTok too.
Or TikTok Moo, as we now like to say.
Zero carbon
east of